How is everybody doing? And welcome back for another Strength Chat episode. Today, I've got a very special guest for you all. Today, I'm joined by an online coach, a public speaker, a podcaster. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Jared Hamilton. How are you doing?
What's up, brother? I hope you're well. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. Thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on. How are you? What's been happening in your world recently?
I'm good, man. Things are good. Things are busy as hell right now. Traveling a lot, and just in the middle of a bunch of stuff with the business and just stuff going on, right? Like the older we get, the crazier things get. But I'm just excited. It's another day. We made it another day. That's kind of it's what's funny. It's kind of corny as it sounds. It's kind of my attitude. I try to wake up with is like, hey, I made it another day. Ever since I heard this statistic, that's like I think it is 130,000 people like don't wake up every day. And I'm like, I got another one. I got another one, So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's yeah, it's a little bit similar to, and this might be a little bit of a tangent, but I was actually talking to he's a coach as well, but there's actually like a calendar. I don't know whether you've heard of this, which is
I've
like I
seen
don't know
it.
whether it's a Roman calendar, and it's basically like the countdown to death, basically,
Hmm.
about how many you've done. But sometimes when you put it into perspective like that, it's kind of like yeah, I'm gonna have another good week and keep going from there.
Hmm.
And in terms of like traveling, is that speaking? Is that delivering? What's kind of upcoming in your calendar?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything. It is so far this year I've had at least a trip per month so far, like in the last like 3, 4 months or so. Um, it's been a combination of going out to see mentors of mine and people that coach me, some speaking events where I'm being brought in to speak, and then other conferences and things like that, like I'm attending, and then a little bit of fun. I just got back from California to go visit a friend this month. My wife and I are going on a little mini vacation, so we're gonna be traveling. So yeah, that kind of stuff, a
Ah,
little bit of
cool.
everything.
And do you quite like obviously a good mix of things there, but do you kind of find that as though you've got a good balance between kind of like the traveling and work as well, because just why I ask, you speak to some maybe probably newer coaches and trainers. It's kind of like, no, 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 I just need to be just working all the time. Do you feel as though you've got like kind of a good balance between that?
I have the best I've had to date, but it's by no means perfect. That's there's a struggle there. Is there's part of me that always feels like I need to be on and I need to be working, but then when I zoom out, I also know I'm the foundation of everything I do. So if I'm not good, if I'm not recovered, if I'm not taken care of, if I'm mentally burned out, it translates to everything else. So for me, it's a constant work in progress. But that's one of my things this year is I'm trying to go on more trips that aren't work, that aren't conferences or speaking or whatever. Like I'm trying to go on a trip at least per quarter with my wife, just the two of us.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting ready to do this month. So
Ah, cool. Well, at the start, I did quite a brief introduction. But for everyone listening who might not know your background in coaching, education, basically where you got to the point where you're at now, just want to give a little bit of a background to yourself for everyone listening.
yeah. So my name is Jared Hamilton. I've been coaching. It's all I've ever known. I've been coaching professionally for we're probably coming up on 15 years or so, like a long time. I started as an in-person trainer on the floors in gyms. I think it's funny now with how popular online coaching is. Like, not very many coaches actually know what it's like to train someone and like teach them how to squat or whatever. So I started my whole career off like that. I thought I was going to be a career personal trainer. Like the thought of like not doing sessions was like unheard of for me. But one thing led to another. Things happen, change happens, growth happens. So been doing that forever. Started off as a personal trainer, built an entire in-person training business locally to me. I was like the local like guru for stuff for this stuff. And then before it was is popular, I went online, so I hired a mentor, helped show me the ropes of online coaching, how to transition my business online. Did that, and then I've been online for almost 10 years right now. At the time, like I actually just saw a Facebook time hop of like 9 years ago. I'm like, I'm officially online coaching, and I'm like, oh wow, that was cringy, but it's that long. And that's when I got into like content creation really heavily, the podcast really heavily, and that kind of thing. And then now it's funny because over the course of time, my focus has changed a little bit. Whereas before I was the workout guy. Like you're a trainer. People are hiring you to train them. So when I went to online coaching, it was a very training emphasized thing. It was all about the programming and all about that. Didn't do as much with nutrition. Then I transitioned more to nutrition coaching and accountability because that's what more people needed. But I've always been obsessed with like psychology and personal development and that kind of thing, or that side of things, I should say. And so over the last several years, that has been my deepest focus where I bring the world of, I would say, sustainable weight loss and the inner game, the mental, the emotional, and the psychological side of things, because they need each other. I mean, if we don't address where a lot of the root causes of problems stem from, you'll never have long lasting results. So I was the sustainable fat loss guy forever, but there would always be these problems because people would still have a terrible relationship with food. They would still not know how to regulate their emotions. They still were unaware of their patterns sabotaging them and these kind of things, or childhood stuff that happened. So that's been my main area of focus of marrying these two worlds together of inner game, mental and emotional work and sustainable fat loss. And that's really where I like to live, if that makes sense. Where I kind of coined this term, what I call dieting from the inside out, where we have to take a mental and emotional approach to transformation.
Yeah. Ah, cool. And with that, when you said there having that interest in terms of the, the psychology side of things, the mindset of things, was that a natural progression? Did you kind of like when you said you were, a trainer on the gym floor, did you kind of see yourself? Would you have got to that point if you were still kind of training on the gym floor? Do you think that was a natural progression, or did that kind of come to the forefront of your coaching with the fact that you are online and wanting to go down that route?
I'm curious. I don't know if it would have gone as far in person because of the nature of it, because most people hire a trainer in person because it's all about the training, right? It's like, here's your workout. I will see you next week. And there's not much conversation around other habits, nutrition, things like that. So I don't think it would have happened quite as much versus when I got online and I was really doing nutrition and habit coaching around like, hey, here's your entire plan. Here are your workouts. Here's your nutrition. Here's your check-in. Here's your habits. Here's all the other stuff I want you to do. Um, so I think for me, I don't think it would have been quite as much of a fast progression through that versus now they're all intertwined. Like if I give someone their nutrition goals and then they're binge eating, oh, okay, we have to unpack the binge eating, why that's happening. Oh, you've been binge eating since you were 6. Well, what happened when you were 6? Oh, we need to put these other frameworks into place. So that's where I think the transition really happened more by proxy.
Yeah. All right, cool. And this is for kind of the newer trainers, coaches, younger trainers or coaches. How did you, when you first started, covering these topics, working with clients on these topics, how did you approach that conversation? Because, sometimes you can think of when you're talking about habits, nutrition, I think there is an emotional attachment sometimes around nutrition, and sometimes you can go down a rabbit hole that for a lot of trainers, a lot of coaches may not feel confident or qualified enough to speak about that. How did you kind of two questions? How did you kind of increase your knowledge and education in that area? And two, implement that in the real world and start those conversations, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So I think number one is if you're not educated in what you're teaching, get educated. I think I mean, literally, like if there's two sides to it, don't only teach what you know. You know what I mean? So, but then the other piece to it is I think everyone just assumes that once they have the education, they will feel qualified. And again, not to take this out of context, do not be giving advice and teaching that you aren't qualified to teach or your knowledge isn't there. But just because you have a piece of paper or just because you feel or just because you get a set of information doesn't mean you're going to feel naturally like you're ready to go. I remember at every stage in my career, it doesn't matter what I did, I felt like a fraud, right? Like I remember like studying to be like get my first personal trainer certification, and I got it, and I was like, I walked down to the testing center and said pass. I go, oh my gosh, I'm a personal trainer now. But I don't feel that different than I did 20 minutes ago when I was taking the test. It's the same thing with like a lot of people. Let's say they graduate college and they're a nurse now. Well, they don't feel that different than before, right? So there's always going to be a level of I think imposter syndrome until you have a stack of irrefutable proof that you are a expert in what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's the nature of it. Because let's say I mean I know a lot of people who are brilliant, but they can't teach. They are educated, but they don't know how to communicate that to someone, so they feel off about it. Or let's say they just got their credentials or whatever, or they understand all this, but let's say they haven't worked with that many people. So of course it's natural to go, oh, do I know what I'm talking about? Even, even to be totally honest, there are times, I've worked with thousands of people and I have a stack of irrefutable proof that I am an expert in what I am. But I have low days too, where I go, man, am I really in the right thing? And man, do I really know what I'm talking about? Am I actually helping people? Meanwhile, the day before, I stopped. Took someone from binge eating for 30 years, gone in a month. It's these kind of things. So I think that there's part of it where you're going to have to take uncomfortable action and start teaching this stuff. And then once you have a stack of irrefutable proof that you are qualified or you do know what you're talking about, I think then the brain gets on point where you feel a little bit more comfortable with it.
Yeah. And do you think that's kind of a natural lifespan of, a trainer, of a coach? Because, ultimately, the goal is to help people, but because it's not like, I know obviously you can get evidence, you mentioned there about, the training side of things. You can do this workout, you went from this weight to this weight. Do you think sometimes because, it might take a little bit longer, it might be, a little bit harder to track in terms of the psychology side of things, the nutrition side of things, where it's there's going to be occasions like what you said where you feel like am I making a difference until you actually look back and be like, oh well, actually yeah, I've done this and this.
Yeah, how often does that happen with clients, right? Think about how slow the progression is of losing weight or gaining muscle. You know what I mean? Like if someone, let's say I have a client that needs to lose 50 pounds, well, 1 pound down, you can't even see a difference. But then one more pound down, you still don't see a difference. One more pound down, it's like turning the pages on a book. It never feels like you're doing anything until you look back and go, "Oh, holy shit, that's what I used to look like." I think it's the same thing in terms of like career progression or this kind of stuff with clients where it's easy to go, oh, maybe because day to day, it's like, oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. That's a lot playing in a lot of people's heads. So most coaches are constantly searching for more, whether validation or education or whatever. But most don't turn around and go, oh shit, I have done that. Oh yeah, I have helped. Oh yeah, I have created 500 transformations. Oh, I have created 1,000 transformations. Oh yeah, Mrs. Jones did just lose 100 pounds. Or oh yeah, I did make that person stop a lifetime of binge eating. So I think it's so easy as ambitious people in our careers to be constantly looking for the next, the next, the next. And I think it's important, but I also think it's important to have a level of equanimity where we are here with what is, and we are reflecting on that to gather truth. I think there's a lot of cases where emotions are all over the place and focus is all over the place. So we need to ask ourselves, well, what is true? So if
Yeah.
you may go, man, I feel like an imposter, but what's truth? Oh, well, I am drowning in transformations that I've created. Okay. I'm probably better than I think I am. Or it could be the inverse where you're like, oh, I'm hot shit, but none of my clients get results. Well, what's truth? Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. I think there's a level of duality with both of those.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember where I heard this, but it was kind of that fact versus fiction. You can write your own story in your head sometimes from a client and from a coach point of view. Whereas actually sometimes when you're looking back at the facts, it's going to give you that clear picture.
Yeah.
And what I like to think about it, with the coaches the coaches and trainers that I help with, that's your areas for development. Doesn't mean to say that you're rubbish at that one area. It just means that
Mhm.
that's the area that you need to develop.
Yeah, one of the things I have my clients do that I think is good for everyone to do, this little like kind of mental audit exercise, is what's going well. What are some areas that are that you're winning in? But then is what is the area of focus right now? What is not improving? What needs a little bit more attention? What needs adjusted and moving forward? And I think having that duality of both is really important.
Yeah. You just touching on what you said then, and kind of getting into the one of the topics that I had in mind. When it comes to nutrition, habits, emotions around, the thoughts and feelings around food, and what people do day to day. Um, they're built up over a big amount of time, and it just becomes as an autopilot. That's how they're gonna work. How are they kind of formed? When are they created? And the second question would be, how do you in your approach to working with clients, kind of get to the root of, look, this is what we need to focus on. Is it quite a direct approach? Is it a build up over time? How do you kind of work with that if both of those kind of make sense?
Yeah, so for the first question, like where do these patterns come from? There are several places. Generally, most patterns come from either it could be old conditioning, as in it's just what you've done forever. For example, if you say, Jared, cross your arms, I cross right over left. Nothing emotional about it. It is I've crossed right over left for 30 years. So crossing left over right feels really awkward. So if you said, Jared, I want to start this podcast with your other arm on top, I would unconsciously I would be talking to you on autopilot and I would slowly uncross more than likely because that's just how that pattern got developed. I'm right-handed. I always cross right over left. That's one. Like some people just they've binge eaten since they were 6, so they've always binge. It's just the habit, talking with your hands, talking fast, whatever. Other patterns can get established out of a means of survival. What I mean by that is not like, not ever like people may hear that and they go, I've never been in a survival situation. I go, well, you're thinking of like saber-toothed tiger chasing you. But for example, let's say when you were a child, mom and dad were getting divorced, and as a 6-year-old, you didn't know how to handle those big emotions of fear, so you found food to cope. That was a survival mechanism where you found binge eating to give yourself some semblance of control. It could be something like that. It could have been like, let's say, all or nothing mentality, like we see a lot in this world. Let's say when you were in high school, you struggled, so you had to be very all or nothing to get through high school. Otherwise, you were going to let your parents down. So you learned like, oh, I can go all in and just like berate myself, drill sergeant style, and that's how I learned to achieve. It's kind of what happened. That's in not quite case by case, but that's kind of what I learned. When I learned, one of the patterns that I had to unlearn that I didn't realize I had was in basically emotional suppression based in ambition. I didn't like what I felt, so if I wouldn't achieve things, I would feel better about myself. Well, that's dangerous. So, but that was a pattern that I learned when I was in my teenage years. So as far as where patterns come from, it just varies. It could be conditioning, it could be a trauma or a survival response, or it could be you just modeling what was shown to you.
Yeah.
So I'm not wearing a watch right now, but I'm right-handed and I wear my watch on my right hand, which is kind of weird. Most people wear their watch on their non-dominant hand. Well, my dad was a lefty. My dad was left-handed. I'm right-handed. So when I'm 3, 4, 5, and my dad's wearing a watch and I'm wearing a watch, I go, I'm just gonna put it on the same side dad does.
Yeah.
And now, if I put a watch on my left hand, how it's supposed to be, it feels so freaking awkward because I just modeled what my dad did and my brother did and whatever. So there's a lot of places that patterns come from. But then the second question, I believe, was around the idea of like, well, what do we do? How do we stop it? It has to be a very direct approach, in my opinion, because you can't escape a jail you don't know you're trapped in. We have to be aware. We have to be consciously aware of our unconscious selves. We have to become consciously aware of the patterns that are operating unconsciously. If you have a tendency to go on autopilot and start emotional eating or avoiding certain foods and binge eating or whatever your thing is, we can't fix that until we know that's what's happening.
Yeah.
This is like goes with anything. I had a mentor of mine say, Jared, you use the word like a lot when you're talking. And I go, huh, I had no idea. So now I'm listening for it. So when I start to go like as like a filler word or whatever, I didn't know I was doing it. So I couldn't adjust or course correct or fix it. It's the same thing with all of our patterns. Most people are oblivious to their patterns, so they always fall victim to them. But as soon as you go, oh, I'm doing it again. As soon as you are outside of the pattern and looking at it, you've conquered it. Now you can course correct because if the pattern is, oh, I just do this thing, I just hide my emotions with food, or I just binge eat, or I say, fuck it, I'm going to start over Monday, whatever the pattern, oh, I lose motivation and quit going to the gym. It doesn't matter what it is. When you go, oh, this is where I do that thing. And then your will has to be stronger than the pattern. So if your pattern is I turn to food to hide my emotions, and you get stressed and you go, oh, I was about to do it again. It feels really normal to go follow down the old path, but you go, no, that's not who I am anymore. I'm breaking this pattern. And you go hold space for your emotions. Like say you journal or breathe, go on a walk, whatever. Your brain is going, wait a second, we've always done that. Why is he going this way now? So it's hard. Pattern breaking is one of the most resistance filled, zero motivation, highest discipline things that you're going to have to do, is because your brain is also wired where whatever your habits and patterns are, it has a tie to survival. That pattern served you. And so your brain thinks breaking it, you're going to die. So that's why there's all this resistance and self sabotage and things like that.
Yeah. And how, you know, with that, because you've said, you mentioned earlier about a client, who was binge eating for 20 years, that's a huge amount of time, a huge part of somebody's life, and it can kind of come across as though that's just who they are. That's part of them.
Mm.
That's just their lifestyle. How do you kind of approach maybe the fight back or challenge from clients, and try and add tactics in there, because for something that's happening for so long, I can imagine, and I've had clients say this to me. It's like, oh, I can't do it, or I'm never going to be able to do that. What's kind of your approach to deal with that?
We have to start with the belief systems because you default unconsciously and protect what you believe. So we have to start at the base. We have to start at the foundation of this, in which is the belief systems. Because like you mentioned like three beliefs just now. You said this is just who I am, which is wrong. If you think that's just who you are, you're going to default to it. Um, I'm too far old, too far gone, whatever the belief is. We have to dismantle all those beliefs, because think of your beliefs about anything in yourself or whatever as like the thermostat on your wall. So if my thermostat on my wall is set at 70 degrees, and the room heats up to 80, the thermostat kicks on and goes, "Oh, we got to cool the room off." Well, it's the same thing with your beliefs. Your beliefs are your thermostat setting. So if your beliefs are, I'm just a binger, this is just who I am, and you go 2 weeks without binge eating, you're going to trigger that and find a reason to unconsciously binge. So we have to change the belief systems, because your brain, all of our brains are supercomputers. Our brains work to go find evidence to support and validate what we believe, whether it's true or not. It's why you could take a pessimistic person and who thinks the world is a horrible place out to get them, and they're going to live a nightmare walking out of their house. But you could have the optimistic person, and they're going to see nothing but beauty everywhere. Same world. It's just a different perspective based on what you believe, because your brain, being a supercomputer, has this thing that's called your RAS, your reticular activating system, where it's your filter on life. It's that thing in your brain where if you buy a new car, you see it everywhere. Then you sell that car and buy another car, you see that one everywhere. It's why you watch a scary movie, then all of a sudden your house creaks really loud. It's not that your house creaked the same amount. You're just now aware of it because your brain is on red alert for whatever's important to you. It's why you don't notice trash on the ground, but you notice money on the ground, because money's important to us. So whatever you believe, your brain will find evidence unconsciously to validate it. So this is why we need to be very intentional what we believe. But most people, the first thing with this stuff, with especially the pattern stuff or the binge eating stuff, um, most people confuse what they do with who they are. Just because they've binged for 30 years, they think who they are is a binger. But ironically, they've brushed their teeth for 30 years and they don't go, "Oh, I'm a teeth brusher." Right? But you know what I mean? Or I would say this, "Oh, I've fallen off diets for the last 30 years. I'm not a consistent person." Well, you've brushed your teeth effortlessly for 30 years and you're consistent with that. So why aren't you a consistent person?
Yeah.
If we're going to base something you did or did not do and tie a meaning of this is who I am, why don't you let it serve you over here? You fed your dog every day for the last whatever. So why are we cherry picking what we're choosing? It's why I also don't believe in an addictive personality. The concept of, oh, I'm an addicted, because people say that, but they only choose the bad things. Oh, I have an addictive personality. Okay, then why aren't you addicted to eating fruit? Why aren't you addicted to healthy habits? Why aren't you addicted to journaling what you feel? Or you're only addicted to, it's a cop out is what it is. It's like, it's why I drink too much alcohol. It's why I binge on the weekend. It's like, no, there are other reasons for that. This is why most people are talking out of both sides of their mouth, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we have to start it at the belief system level. You are not what you do. If
Yeah.
that was the case, I could go stand in my garage and go vroom vroom, and I am a car. Whereas it's not. I can go act like a car, but that doesn't make me a car. So you could have binged for the last 30 years, but that's not who you are. A mentor of mine even said it this way, like let's say you had a child, you're dad now. Let's say you had a kid, you're dad now. Well, that's actually not. That's just a hat you wear, because you weren't a dad. There was a period of your life where you weren't a dad, but you were still here. So dad isn't even your identity. Or let's say someone's a nurse and they're like, "Oh, I'm a nurse." No, that's just a hat you wear. That's something you do, because there's a period of your life you were not a nurse and you were still here. So most people confuse what they do with who they are.
You've said there a lot about the beliefs and, when people are identifying and using it as an excuse or just gravitating towards the negative side of things, which I think is a really good point. No one ever does say, I'm addicted to fruit or whatever it may be. People just say, I'll go to the gym or do whatever. They don't maybe shout about that as an addiction, if you like. Do you think that why people say this is because they maybe don't know what their beliefs are because they've maybe been doing
Yeah.
things for so long that they just put this up as like a smoke front, if you like.
For sure. I think there's a lot of unconscious incompetence on the, like the learning scale. Most people are oblivious to what the actual problem is or what their patterns are or what have you. The magic happens when you are now consciously you shift to conscious incompetence. Hey, I know there's more to this that I don't understand. I'm aware I don't know it all. That's now you are open. But if you're oblivious, it's why there's a lot of people who spout a lot of things that they fully believe that you, but you question it a little bit and they go, oh, I've never thought about it like that. It's like in the nutrition world, people say, oh, I'm addicted to sugar. And I go, then why don't you binge on actual sugar just out of the bag? And they go, oh, well, I don't know. It's like the foods that you're addicted to are sugar, half fat with protein, like pastries and ice cream. Well, then if you're addicted to sugar, that means you would literally binge actual table sugar or fruit or drink honey out of the gallon. Like you wouldn't be just eating pastries that have a
Yeah.
lot more than just sugar. You know what I mean? It's like they go, "Oh, I didn't think about it." They weren't aware of that. But this is where people can turn that into a self-fulfilling prophecy because that same person will go, "No, I am addicted to sugar and I in my head sugar equals ice cream." So they all of a sudden feel this pull to ice cream where if we unpack it, they go, "Oh, I guess I'm not addicted to sugar. I just have a bad relationship with ice cream." It's the same thing with this. If someone says, I have an addictive personality," okay, if you believe that, then you're addicted to shutting doors and to turning off lights and drinking water and you know, but no one thinks about it that way. So this is why we have to audit and double down and check all of our belief systems.
Yeah. And when you said about kind of the habits that we have when we're older, you mentioned a couple of times of if your parents go into divorce and you were eating, or when you mentioned about your dad wearing the watch. Do these habits, even though at that age when we're children, we're not going to be aware of it. It's just going to be something that we might do by seeing, like what you mentioned
Yep.
about seeing what's happening, or just a response that we don't know. Do these kind of, as we get older, do they kind of inflate and become, I don't want to use the word extreme, but kind of become more apparent. So maybe people are aware of it and they're saying they're addicted to it. They're saying that they do this or do this. Does it kind of change or vary or become a bigger issue as we get older?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the longer a habit has to stay, the stronger it gets. But things may exacerbate it as you get older. For example, if you didn't know how to handle stress when you were little, and the only stress you had is what outfit do I wear? Or mom and dad are fighting, if that's the extent of your stress, but you didn't know how to handle it and you hid it and you went to food to cope. But now you're an adult that runs a business, has three kids of your own, and are behind on bills, and your job is on the line, you're going to binge way harder. You're going to have a much harder time. You know what I mean? Because the system scales. So most people, it actually gets worse. If they were younger and they found they were like cutting carbs or scared to eat sugar, now they have 50 pounds they want to lose and they haven't had any success. It's going to be even worse because it has more time in it. It has exacerbated in most cases.
And where does that when does it get to a point where people want to make a change? Because sometimes you mentioned a client there, kids, family, work. There's clients I work with that are going to the gym, but they're like, no, 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 I don't want to deal with my nutrition, or yeah, just checking with me next time. That they don't want to do it until it gets to a point where it needs to be like, well, actually, you're not seeing results. Actually, yeah, you're training 3 times a week, but nothing's really changing on the scale. Where would you kind of intervene then? Or is it kind of, the client needs to kind of be in a position to want to make a change, if that makes sense?
It's both.
Mm.
The person is not going to change until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. Case in point, I'm happy with my house. So of course I'm not shopping for a new house because I'm content. I'm happy with my house. If someone's situation doesn't hurt that bad, why would why would they change? You know what I mean? Like this is with anything. Everything that we do, every decision comes down to which hurts worse. Case in point, I just got a haircut the other day. It's because I did not like the way my hair was looking. Like it's getting pretty long. So the pain of walking around with hair that was too long started to become greater than the pain of paying $20 for a haircut. Right now, my beard is looking pretty straggly. I need to like clean it up a little bit, but I haven't been doing it because it's not that big of a deal. Now it's starting to get annoying. Now it's like getting frizzy and like I do jujitsu and then people are accidentally grabbing it and it's hard. Like, so now it's enough of a annoyance or we'll call it a pain. Then now it's a priority. So the problem is everyone's floor, everyone's point is different. Some people's rock bottom is, oh, I can't see my abs, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Some people's rock bottoms is I almost died. I lost a kid. I had a client who back when I was a trainer in person, he ended up dying because he never got the organ transplant he needed because he never took it seriously. He was like 80 to 100 pounds overweight, always was blowing things off. And the reason he hired me is because he needed a kidney transplant because he was going to die, but he thought he had time. And he's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. He died. He literally didn't make it, unfortunately. It was terrible. And I know I could have changed his life, but he didn't want it bad enough. He thought he had more time. But I bet if a little, little thing, angel came into his ear and said, "You've got 6 months. If you don't fix this, you're going to die." I guarantee you he would have changed because his awareness would have been high and that pain would have gotten great, really bad. Like, oh, if I don't change, I'm literally going to die at 40. So I think there's a balance there because at the same time, yes, there needs to be that on the client side, but but a lot of coaches are like, "Oh, my client doesn't want it bad enough. It's their fault, not mine." I think that's a cop out. I think there's a balance there because yeah, that's like the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. If someone doesn't want it, we don't have their free will. If I could take a client's free will, I would do it in a heartbeat. But we can't. They still have free will. So if the desire isn't there or it's not a priority, there's not a thing we can do. This is why my motto is I only help the willing. If someone doesn't want it, there's nothing I can do about it. But at the same time, I believe it is part of a coach's role to hold accountable and to bring up these things to help motivate them. What I mean by that is most people have motivation off. Most people think motivation is like Dwayne Johnson, rah, rah, let's feel good. That's not motivation. If you look at the dictionary definition for motivation, it is having a reason to do something. So as a coach, it's important to bring up what their motive is. I cannot influence someone until I know it influences them. So my clients who are like, I don't want my kid to have an eating disorder. I talk about that when they're like, oh, and they start to fall off. I'm like, well, keep in mind what you're choosing right now. Every time you say, oh, I'll get a start over Monday, little Timmy's going to start over Monday. Like, oh, I didn't think about that. So it is there's a two-way street here. It is still the client's responsibility to have the desire because we cannot force anyone to do anything, but it's part of the coach's role is to also understand what does influence them and what is their motive. Because I always say, the way that I always view it is the number one cause of human behavior changing is avoidance of pain. And most people who know what to do but don't do it are not aware of the pain. Half of the questions I ask my people, they go, "Oh, I never thought about it." Because they've never had someone like me asking them these deep questions. Like when someone says, like, let's say a client is having a hard time, and I go, "Cool. Well, remind me, what's the whole reason we're here? Why are you even giving two shits about this?" Well, my mom died when she was young, and I'm afraid I'm going to. I go, okay. Well, if what, and I will ask, what happens if we don't fix this? What if you don't take this seriously? What's going to happen? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to stay fat. Okay. But then what? Well, I guess I'll keep gaining weight. Okay. Then what? Well, and I guess I'm going to have to get on blood pressure meds. Okay. Then what? Well, then I might die early. Oh, who died early? My mom. Oh, so you're going to follow in your mom's footsteps. Now what happens if you die early? What happens to your kids? Oh, I guess my kids won't have a mom. How does that make you feel? How does it make you feel your husband going to have to find someone else to raise your kids? And then all of a sudden they're getting emotional, right? Like most coaches are scared to do this because it's uncomfortable. My favorite question to ask people is what happens if we don't do this? What happens if you don't take this seriously? What happens on paper? But you need to paint it out. Most people live in the surface level. Like, what if I don't brush my teeth? Oh, my breath stinks. Well, then my teeth turn yellow. Then my wife doesn't want to kiss me. And then my wife doesn't want to have sex with me. Then I have cavities every day. Then I'm in pain every day. Then I lose my teeth. Then no one on social media follows me because I look weird like a grandpa. Like, take whatever that is, and you need to go deeper, 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 deeper until you find out what influences them.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point because, on the surface level, a lot of people want to have, similar results. Yeah, I want to lose a little bit of weight, I want to tone up, or whatever it may be. I want to get a little bit fitter. Whereas, there's got to be a reason why
Yeah.
for it, and that comfort zone that people are in can be quite um
Yeah.
easy to stay in.
Hmm.
And from the coach's point of view, is that just like with anything, to get better at anything, it's just repetitions? Is that just, working with more clients, or how how do you increase your confidence to ask to ask those questions?
I think is you have to have the relationship there. Obviously, these questions are hard to ask, but I think this is part of the relationship that you have to build and nurture. Like I do it from the very gate, like from the very get go. When someone is applying to work with me, I go, cool. Well, what's going on? Well, why? What do you like? Let's say, what do you want goal wise? Cool. Why do you want that? Cool. What happens if you don't get that? Cool. What's getting in the way of you accomplishing that? Oh, okay. Why does this matter to you? What happens if we don't do this? What happens if we don't get started? Like, and you can go. I mean, I go out there right out the gate because this person is coming to me for help. So I view it as it's my responsibility to figure out what the core desire is behind this or the underlying pieces, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Because it goes back to what you said right at the start, the skill set that you have there to ask those questions, to build that relationship. It comes from, spending hours on the gym floor, being able to speak to different people, being able to, have a conversation starter,
Hmm.
to actually hold a conversation. Because maybe a little bit of a tangent, but that's sometimes where people can be like, oh, so what did you do on the weekend? But then they have no follow up, like what you mentioned there about trying to get to the deeper cause of, or deeper issue as to why the client wants this.
Yeah.
One thing that I also wanted to touch on was, we've spoken there about how to get to the root cause, about making your brain aware that, oh well, this is what I was doing, I want to make a different choice from there. And like with weight loss, nothing is never a straight line down, or, a straight line progress on the way up. And, people think that things can, everyone wants results now, 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 whereas actually it might
Hmm.
take time, and there might be some fails or losses, across the way. What's your approach to, getting clients to buy into that process, and why isn't it just a case of click, you can do this, just do this for 6 weeks, and it'll happen?
Say that last part again.
So some people will think that, with some courses, like, oh, this is for 6 weeks, or this is 12 weeks, and that's it, you'll achieve everything on there. Whereas actually, there's sometimes cycles where people, do well, then fall off, do well, then fall
Yeah.
off, to keep that consistency. Why isn't progress just this thought of, right, actually just do this and you'll
Yeah.
get where you want to be, rather than sometimes, having those failures or losses across the way, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's two-sided. I think it's, excuse me, setting expectations out the gate. Most people don't, I mean, most people are promised, a 3-year transformation in 30 days. You know what I mean? Like it's lose 30 pounds in 30 days. It's wild. So I think part of this is number one, setting expectations for the client so they understand what to expect. Because if someone is expecting one thing and gets another, they very well may have been cool with the other alternative. But if they were expecting something different, of course they're going to have a bad experience. For example, if let's say you like water and you also like Sprite. Well, if you go to drink Sprite and it's water, oh my gosh, that's a horrible experience. Or vice versa. If you go to drink Sprite or water and it's Sprite or Sprite, it doesn't matter. You expected one and got another, and it's like, something's wrong. So out the gate, especially with weight loss, the expectations have to be set appropriately based on their goals. Hey, you're trying to lose 100 pounds. This is going to take several years. You know what I mean? Oh, you're trying to add 50 pounds to your bench press. Cool. It's gonna start off strong. You're probably gonna get a good maybe 10, 15 pound jump because of what I'm gonna have you do. Then you're gonna plateau. Then it's gonna be teeny tiny 5 pound increments from there on out, and it's not gonna be linear at all. That way the client goes, oh, I know what to expect. And then it's a matter of setting the plan in a sustainable way. I think one of the biggest reasons people are on off is because their plan's just not sustainable. It's not practical, and it's not good for all seasons of life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And with that as well, because we talk a lot about that sustainability, whereas even everyone knows that things takes time. It gets spoken a lot about. Um, why is it that there's still that thought process of these really big results and transformations in a short space of time? Because you do see some cases where this happens. Are they just kind of anomalies and people think, oh yeah, I'll be able to do that, rather than it might be because they, I don't know, were locked in a hotel with a chef and a PT,
Right.
compared to the example that you said before of somebody who's got a family and works full time. Like where do these expectations get distorted a little bit?
I mean, I think they're all over the place. I mean, I think diet culture in the first place, like every Facebook ad, every magazine in the grocery store, every communication is about quick, fast now. I mean, and then it just gets worse. Like, oh, I got on Ozempic from my doctor and I lost 30 pounds in 2 months. Like it's all over the place. We see a lot of people doing really unsustainable things, getting really quick results, and then no one talks about how they gained all their weight back. But if someone's only looking at highlight reels, we just see everyone else winning and you're not, and that's where that comes from a lot. Or a lot of it comes from parental, like it's from when you were little and mom was obsessed with going low carb or Weight Watchers or whatever. I just think it's around us, whether it be childhood, family, friends, office colleagues, or literally what's targeted at you on Facebook ads and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's because there's in the era of so much information and everyone's got a voice, you can't really get away from
Yeah.
that. So yeah, having conversations like this, putting information out there where actually there are better ways to be able to be able to work with
Hmm.
clients and see results.
Yeah.
We spoke, quite a lot about, getting to the cause of, issues or habits, and how to change them. But for everyone listening, whether it be the coaches listening or clients listening, the last question that I'd like to ask Jared is, what would be your take-home points or words of wisdom from what we've chatted about today?
What comes up for me first is slow down and go inward around all these deeper parts. Go inward. What do my patterns look like? What am I doing when I feel emotional? How is my relationship with food? How are my expectations? All of the needle mover things from our conversation are all inward things. They're not like, oh, what's the best workout split to make my shoulder feel? It's not anything like that. It's inward. What's going on internally that I need to change to get a better external result, which for most people is what are your belief systems? What are your patterns that you don't even know are running and operating? How is your relationship with food? How are you regulating your emotions separately from food? How do you respond to when, let's say, the scale doesn't move the way you want it? Or how are expectations? All of these kind of things. It's all a matter of going inward is the solution to most people's struggles.
Yeah, I think it goes to what the phrase that I like. I think that was a good take home points from what we've chatted there, and it kind of relates to the what I like to say is it's never just one thing. So I'm
No.
sure you've had it as well, where clients have jumped on the scale and it was that chocolate bar that I had Tuesday afternoon.
Yep.
That's what's made me gain weight. Whereas actually, it's like, well, is it actually they're not going to bed at the right time? Is it because you've been having whatever it may be? It's going to be a build up of things. Because then that way, that's when you can be like, ah, yeah, well, it's that. It's not because of me. It's not because of that. You can say it's something else. Um,
Mhm.
I thought that was a really, really interesting chat, Jared. I think there was some really useful information for coaches and clients to take away, really, and look to implement. If anyone has any questions about what we've chatted about today, or want to reach out to you or see the content that you put out there, where could people find you or reach out to you?
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. This was great. So for me, if you like this deeper kind of stuff, I do have my own podcast called Dieting from the Inside Out, and I talk exclusively about this stuff. It's on all platforms, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. And then if you like this kind of content but want it more in your feed, I talk specifically to the client, if you will. Like, I don't talk as much to coaches, but if you want this kind of content in your feed, I'm at Real Jared Hamilton on all other platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jared, for taking the time to jump on. Really, really appreciated you jumping on. Thanks a lot to everyone listening, and I will see you all next week.
bye, guys.